يا نور العين يا طه الزين يا نور العين يا طه الزين اشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
How's your week, Shaykh?
Alhamdulillah, it's been good, mashallah. Busy as usual, but alhamdulillah, it's good. Allah. Bismillah. And yourself?
It's been hectic. It's been hectic. Alhamdulillah, it was all right.
Are you going to sing on this? Are you going to sing a few qasaid for us before we start? Why do
You know, I keep meaning to learn some. I will do, inshallah. Maybe not today, but I will do next time.
What's your favourite?
Got a few. Depends on how I feel. I like Eidu Ilayya. I like Qad Kafani.
Okay, let's go for the Qad Kafani. Which particular نغمة do you prefer for Qad Kafani?
قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري فدعائي. That one.
Carry on, you started.
No.
What we'll do, we'll take some requests from the listeners. We'll see what
to sing by yourself.
No, I just sing.
I just can't remember the words.
Bismillah. Anyhow, we're actually live, aren't we? So yeah. Bismillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli wa ba'd. Allahumma salli wa sallim. Now, you know what, Dr. Jav, though, we need to spice this up a bit, man, because, so a bit of entertainment from you, because that's what people come on for. You know what religion's about now, don't you? It's all about entertaining the masses.
Yeah. We become clowns.
Nothing to do with actual learning.
Circus.
Okay, let's start with the first one. Omar Hussein saying, please, can you recap what you said in micro about having a personal zakat date? And I was thinking, won't Ramadan lap this at some point if it's a fixed date in Islamic year? I think it needs to be sorted out before Ramadan. What are you saying, Shaykh? You have on that one?
I'm not sure what it means by won't Ramadan lap this at some point. But from what I remember you teaching us, your zakat date is personal to you. It's not a fixed point in the calendar that we choose in Ramadan or anything. So the moment you become Sahib and Nisab, you know, that's your date, and you need to remember that date. And occasionally that might change if you no longer have Nisab for an extended period of time. But other than that, that's your date. So it's key that when parents are teaching children, that they help them make a note of that date, like you remember their other dates. And it's also a good motivation to keep track of the Islamic calendar outside Ramadan and Eid, because that's where it all gets messed up. And that's why people like Ramadan, because that's the only time they seem to look at the Islamic calendar, that and Hajj.
Yeah. So there's your answer. As Dr. Javed mentioned, Ramadan doesn't have anything to do with zakat. So the first point that you hit your threshold, what's known as an nisab, that's been set by Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then that's your zakat date, and every 12 Islamic or 12 lunar months after that, then you pay. And everybody, that's what we meant, our personal zakat date. Everybody has their own. Husband is separate to his wife, separate to his adult children and so on. So it does need learning. You need to learn about Everybody needs to learn about the rules of payment to zakah. Simple as.
There's a question about Sufi Shaykh. Where were we? Assalamu alaikum. This is from Ismail Afzal. Is it? I was wondering, is it a sound belief to have to think that Sufi sheikhs are able to see into the hearts of murids, e.g., knowing their sins? So you're a Sufi sheikh. Can you see into the hearts of Husnain and Zahid?
Oh, you know, you don't need to see into their hearts. They're as obvious as it comes. They're just a couple of straight up sinners.
But you know, it's a really, the reason I picked this question out is because some people have this notion that all Sufi sheikhs have supernatural powers almost, and you know, I mean, how do we kind of balance that against knowing that some shuyukh, you know, have some basira, some insight, without getting carried away?
Bismillah, go and answer the question, because you're a man of spirituality, aren't you? You're a great, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I think we should be worried about the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows our sins. That's the key thing. And you know, there are ulama and shuyukh and Sufi shuyukh that have some basira, some insight. Whether they have details, Allahu alim, nobody really knows. And it's not really that relevant. The point is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows whatever we do. That's the key thing. And there are some people with the label Sufi sheikhs who don't even know what's in their own hearts, let alone your heart, right? So we don't know. We don't know who we're dealing with. It's best to be, you know, on our best behavior, not because of them, but because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahu alam.
Allahu alam. Yeah, no, so the idea of a Sufi sheikh, or even, doesn't even have to be a sheikh, just a person of a high spiritual maqam, being able to see realities, that's absolutely confirmed from the Sunnah, where the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, "Ittaqu firasat al-mu'min, fa-innahu yanzuru bi nurillah." Beware of the inner sight of the believer, for he sees by the light of Allah. So there's an absolute reality to that. Who has that is a different matter. Who has that, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives that to, is a different matter. Abu Hanif was known to have it. He could see the sins of people when they were performing wudu. He could see the sins coming out of that person. So it's a definite reality. It's just a matter of who has it and whether we can be certain about certain individuals having it. But I think the ultimate point is important. Like when we're concerned about Shaykh Fulan can see my sins, can see my heart, which is confirmed that is possible. Or when we think that a person around me can see me doing it, فَاللَّهُ أَوْلَى. You should be more scared of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of this. Allahu a'lam. Naam Sayyidi. Marhaba. Are we going to sing? I've seen Sulaiman Darwish, and he's mashallah munshid, mashallah. So I think we need to sing for him, don't we?
All right, what are we singing?
Ya kitab al-ghuyub.
You know what you need to do? You need to send me some words so I can learn them.
You
sing it, I'll just go wah wah.
Yeah, I want some subhanallah from you, yeah?
I'll throw some money towards you.
It'll be more like astaghfirullah from your voice. No, mashallah, this one's really got me head recently. يا كتاب الغيوب قد لجأنا إليك يا شفاء الصدور الصلاة عليك
يا شيخ بصوت عالية.
أنت طه الرسول تاج أهل القبول أنت طه الرسول تاج أهل القبول كل هم يزول بالصلاة عليك. Beautiful words, subhanAllah. Beautiful. Allah. Anyway, Bismillah. Let's carry on.
Can we just touch on it's last few weeks it's come up here and there. I know what you've said, but a few people want some clarification, or maybe you missed it. Cryptocurrencies. So for those people who don't know, cryptocurrencies are, it's not like sterling or dollars, right? Which in themselves, aren't real money, if we're being completely accurate. Cryptocurrencies it's like an online currency that has allegedly some value. So the most famous one is Bitcoin. There's other ones. So like as soon as, when coronavirus crashed, the whole system, it was something like came down to £3,000 for one Bitcoin. Now it's God knows what. It's like £9,000 or something. So anyway, this is what we're talking about is online currency as opposed to real, not I won't say real, but pennies and pounds. So is this permissible? One of the people asking the question bought some cryptocurrencies some years ago. So if it's haram, how do they dispose of it? And mining cryptocurrency. So that's not where you buy cryptocurrency. That's where you sit on a computer and try to earn a cryptocurrency, basically. So feel free to correct me if I'm misspeaking here. So if you mine cryptocurrency, then can you sell that, that Bitcoin or whatever it is? So there's two questions there. Three questions. Is it permissible? How do I get rid of it if it's haram? And can you mine it and sell it?
So far, whenever I've been asked this question, I've always just quoted one or two of the fatawi that's come out of Azhar, which is essentially stated that it's not lawful because it's not currency in a real sense, in that there's nothing that underpins it. So that's generally the opinion that I've stated, because only a few days ago, I spoke to Shaykh Muhammad Haddami. For those who are unaware of him, he's a Maliki Mufti who's based in the Emirates, from the desert. His father's one of the great Murabateen. Dr. Javed, your camera's gone off and your microphone's still on. So I spoke to him, actually, somebody that trusts completely in his knowledge and his wara and his fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when I spoke to him, he gave quite a fairly lengthy answer. But at the moment, he said it still needs research from the ulama to be definitive about it. And he said at the moment, up until we're certain, he said he errs on the side of caution by saying it's not lawful, it's haram to deal with cryptocurrency. But still, he said it's still a fatwa that needs looking at more. So I'm just going to leave it at that and say that's the fatwa that's come out of Azhar so far. Some of the ulama Asham of Syria, that's the fatwa that they're giving at the moment. And that's what Shaykh Muhammad Haddami, that's the fatwa that he gives as well, that cryptocurrency is not a valid form of currency. It has nothing that underpins it. And likewise, it doesn't have acceptance as a currency, which are both prerequisites of being a currency. Allahu Akbar. So that's as far as I can say on
that. A couple of questions on TV programs, halal and haram. So the first one is about how do we gauge, how haram a program is? At what point do we say this is just, we can't watch this? Because some people say, oh, there might be one or two things which you want to skip, and but at what point do you say that a person shouldn't watch a TV program?
Just generally, leave aside the general points, because it applies to a lot of things. It doesn't apply to all forms of amusement and entertainment and sport as well. There's a problem generally with this. لست من الدد ولا الدد مني. The Prophet said, I'm not from games, nor are games from me. And I have nothing to do with just like amusement and leisure, nor is that my way. So yani the asl is primarily, there's an issue with it. But moving away from that, watching movies, watching shows, watching whatever, there's two factors. One of is that if the content itself is primarily haram, and that covers a lot of areas, that's not just about women, that's not just about like sexual content. There's other things such as a type of language that's used, which is so overlooked. It's so overlooked. Like bearing in mind that lying and backbiting and swearing, these are all haram. And the principle is that whatever is haram to say is haram to listen to. So there's many different factors that make these things haram. If they're predominantly haram, then that's what would make it haram. The occasional part wouldn't make it haram, but there'd still be some type of karaha because of some type of dislike because the shubha within there, because of the uncertainty with it, or because it's mixing with something that's. There's virtually nothing that you watch, that people watch, where you can say safely and comfortably that everything about that's okay. So it's just a matter of it's more about percentages. Allahu A'lam.
So somewhat connected to that question, there were someone was asking about or lamenting how a lot of people, kids in particular, are into watching these superhero movies, and they look forward to kind of watching the films, but know nothing about the companions.
Yeah.
And truth be told, sometimes when you hear teachers giving.
You want to switch off me? You want to switch off?
What do you mean?
Like sometimes, I don't know what you're going to say there, but sometimes the way the story is told just kills it.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. No, but I was saying I'm talking about certain teachers that have you can feel the connection with the Prophet ﷺ and the companions. And almost if you were to tell someone else, oh, this is something that happened with this companion, Sayyidina Abu Huraira, or this is what Sayyidina Ali, or people, these are khurafa, these are like, I don't really believe that. I mean, people are struggling understanding how much Quran these companions can read, let alone, the karamat that happened, so I mean, there is some amazing stuff there, and I think kids and adults, once they can develop that connection, they can really, feel a genuine connection to them. But we don't teach it. We don't teach it right.
Yeah, and that's spot on there, because I was actually going to say something which is the opposite of what Javed was going to say, but I think it's essentially saying the same point, which is that the emotion and the love or otherwise that a person has when telling a story that comes from the Quran or from the Sunnah, it has a lot of impact in how it affects, and especially children, because children are captured by stories. So if, as you're talking about the prophets and talking about all of these stories and these miracles and other prophets and Sahaba and awliya, and you fill their minds with that, you fill their minds with love of prophets and awliya. And that's absolutely essential. Like kids watching movies with superheroes and celebrity role models, they don't have any of that in their background. If the children had all of these like role models from the most beautiful stories, the most amazing, then it will capture something within their heart. Another problem that I feel is, and this is an effect of a particular trend that's overwhelmed the Ummah recently, is that and it's not just that, there's a downplay about the significance of miracles. and also eliminating many of the stories that have come from the prophets, like from the Sahaba, as though these are just like what Javed said, these are just khurafat, asatir al-awwaleen, these are just stories and fables and so on. Like if children are taught about the wonders and the miracles that happen around them, it captures their minds and increases their love within them. So it's essential to give them like the real version, not the watered down, diluted version that's spread across the ummah. Like even seerah, like even people that feel, well, a'udhu billah, feel that you shouldn't say too much about the prophets and only the soundest reports and so on. All of that's like taking something essential out of the. So children should be exposed to that, with all the wonders of those stories, and inshallah ta'ala, it keeps them connected as they grow older. Allahu
A couple of prayer questions. So let me just find the one I was looking at. A mother and a son who's baligh, can they pray together in Jamaat at home?
Go on, you answer that. That's straightforward for you.
Yeah, they can.
And the mother's leading the prayer,
yeah.
And the mother's leading the prayer,
No, I'm not leading the prayer. the baligh lad is leading the prayer. And in fact, in terms of like for men, correct me if I'm wrong. If it's a choice between, but generally women, it's preferential that they pray, even in the house, to pray alone in the musalla, wherever they pray by themselves. But if it means praying with men means that the men can get, or the man in the house, or the adult child in the house can get their Jamaat, then it's preferential for them to join them, right? Is that do I understand that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a question about baligh. What if the boy's غير بالغ, مراهق? Let's say like he's 10 years old. No, that's not even مراهق. He's just younger. Hafid the Quran. He knows how to pray.
Yeah. I mean, if you see the issue there is the prayer is not fard for them, and you can't pray your fard prayer behind a child, because they're essentially, although they're praying fard, it's nafil for them. So that in the Hanafi madhab, I don't know what other madhab. Have you heard anything?
Yeah, that's the view of the majority of the madhahib, that the condition is that the boy or that the son be an adult. Sayyidina Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, he allows it even from a minor. I think, Allahu, I think he has something about the age of 7 onwards. Yeah.
So I mean, the other question on prayer was like a group of women. If it's just women, can they pray together in Jamaat?
Go on, what's the answer? Come on, this is all baby stuff for you.
Yeah, they can, but it's preferential still that they pray by themselves, as far as I understand it. And I think when you get situations like this, I mean, there's a lot of newness and it's like something different. People are attracted to something that's different. I think when it's very clear that it's preferable not to do that, we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing that? Why are we?
Mashallah, you're a staunch Hanafi, aren't you? All the way.
Yeah, I don't think I've reached that maqam where I can even call myself a true Hanafi. Didn't you say even your teachers said that they're not at that level where they can actually say that they're Hanafi?
Yeah. I was going to say that Al-Imam Al-Azam all the way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, no. So I'm not even seeing where that question is, but yeah, a group of women praying in Jama'ah is makruh, and with Abu Hanifa, makruh ay tahrim. So I don't know why you're saying preferential. The Hanafis, they should not be praying together. They should pray alone. But again, Imam Shafi'i, he considers.
Just trying to be nice this week.
Come on, stop being nice, man. Just sing it.
Okay. So we had a question about again connected to prayer. Concentration prayer. Let me find it.
كل من كان محبا لهم
Okay, I can't find it. I'll look for it. Khatib is asking about the ruling on aqiqah. Does the baby's head have to be shaved, or is it okay to give it a little trim?
That's not aqiqah. First of all, that is not aqiqah. Aqiqah is a sacrificing of an animal.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you just dive out of madrasa before you completed year 3, because aqiqah is covered in year 3, semester 3, so you missed it out. Abu Hanifa,
help the guy out, man.
He's not married unless he's got some hidden kid somewhere.
Yeah, maybe he's doing an aqiqah service in the community.
I don't know where it is. Sorry, Musa's just coming interrupted. He's really upset. He's lost something. He should.
In fact, can you do this? Can you just tell us, according to Hanafi madhab, the shaving of the baby's head, the naming of the child, and the aqiqah, right? What does the madhab say on those 3 aspects?
Shaving is recommended. Mustahab. It is not like a fard, which is a view of many within the Asian culture, that if you don't shave, then you committed the worst sin with that child. No, it's preferable. It's mustahab. And then with that hair, it's preferable that once you shave, that you give the equivalent weight of that within silver, which is so cheap. So just give some sadaqah on top of it. Naming from the sunnah, the Prophet on occasions, he named on the actual day of birth, because they would bring the child for tahniq to have saliva of the Prophet mixed in. And so on occasion he'd name on the day of birth. On other occasion he would name 7 days after, a week after. So the naming can be done either. And then aqiqah with Abu Hanifa is not sunnah. It's not sunnah. Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she mentioned that al-udhiyah, the qurbani, abrogated what's called al-rajabiyya wal-itriyya wal-aqiqah. There were 3 sacrifices that used to take place before Islam. She said it abrogated them. And then some said abrogated here means actually makruh to do it. Others say it's mubah. But the key thing is not sunnah mu'akkadah to do aqiqah in the madhab. If you have it done, then fine. If not, there's no harm. Allahu Akbar.
So I thought, I'm trying to work out where I got this idea from. I thought that even shaving the head was just mubah. It was neither here nor there.
Oh,
that was what
I'll look into that again, but from what I recall, it's recommended. I'll look into that.
Is it permissible to play and sell video games which contain haram, violence, music, women without hijab? Would it be considered sinful if you have to, for example, within the game, be baptized or do magic? This is from Ibrahim Ahmed.
Latif, baptized in the game. Allah. Not all of that's definitely a problem. That would definitely fall under the haram. And forget all of that. For the Hanafis, any type of games that doesn't involve like physical activity, particularly geared towards preparing oneself for war, like archery, like horse riding, so on, those terms sunnah sports are all about preparation for war, for jihad. So if it doesn't involve any of that, then according to Abu Hanifa, all of that's considered makruh tahrim. All of that's any type of like games that don't. And then on top of that, you mentioned all of that. Undoubtedly, it'll fall into haram.
This is Fatua sports, right?
Fatua is dhikr Allah.
Okay. If one is doing hifz of Quran and they're memorizing a verse of like a sajda verse, must they do sajda every time they say the verse?
Bismillah, that's standard in the books of fiqh. What's the answer?
Not if they're memorizing it, they just keep going and then they do sajda at the end.
Yeah, and is it one for all? Let's say it's
Yeah.
repeated 10 times, 20 times.
Yeah.
Allahumma salli alayhi. Yeah, yeah. So if you do a repeated sajda, you repeated it. Hifz al-Quran is one. It could be anything. It could be any reason. It could be part of a wird of zikr that you have. Then not only do you do one, it's actually preferable to only do one. It's considered makruh to do more than one. Makruh tanzih to do more than one. Allahu a'lam. Allahumma salli.
So Anonymous is asking, again, relating to stuff that we're watching, is there anything that we should read if they're addicted to looking at bad things and they want to sort of come off it or get off it? What would you say to that?
أولاً أكثر من الصلاة والسلام على النبي. Read a lot of salawat, especially when you feel those type of desires to go and watch something like that. Read a lot of salawat. Read a lot of Durood Sharif before doing that. And then secondly, Allahu shahidi, Allahu naziri, Allahu hadiri, Allahu ma'i. Read that dhikr. Allahu shahidi, Allah is my witness. Allahu hadiri, Allah is present with me. Allahu nadri, Allah's gazing upon me. Allahu ma'i. Just keep on repeating that. Allah is with me. Allahu a'lam.
I mean, is there anything else that just generally people can do if they have if they feel that they're kind of stuck in a rut or have some kind of an addiction? Everyone asks for du'as, which is an amazing thing. It is amazing that they turn to du'as, but sometimes
it also needs treatment. It also needs treatment.
Needs help.
Yeah, it needs professional treatment.
Okay. How do you? This is a marriage question, so this is definitely for you. How do you use istikhara to guide decision making in marriage? How do you get the answer? Is it dreams, feeling, seeing the person's name in places for marriage? Sometimes it gets confusing as to how to make a decision.
Allah. Where are you looking? I wasn't even listening to you then.
Basically, someone wants to get married, and how do you use istikhara to help make that decision? Should they be expecting something in a dream or a feeling, or seeing people's name proper?
Sorry, honestly, people are complicating these things. Right? Just take advice.
What does istikhara mean first? Just tell us what istikhara actually means.
No, we'll do that, man. Just get married, man. People are just complicating everything. Just find somebody that you're attracted to, half-decent person. Just go for it. Tawakkalna ala Allah. Worse is that you mess it up and then the marriage is over. But that's a lot.
Are you just saying that because you get like 100, 200 quid for conducting nikahs? So you just you want them to come thick and fast, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, you get a bonus one when they get remarried.
Oh no! I also charge them for the divorce.
Have I just rumbled you? But
I charge them for the divorce certificate as well.
Subhanallah. I need to get out of dentistry and become
a full package, mate. A full package.
Yeah.
Marriage and divorce together in one.
Yeah.
Istikhara. Istikhara is about seeking counsel and guidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Istishara al-istishara wal-istikhara. Take advice from people who know that person and who know the family of that person. Then turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then look to see where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directs your heart, and look to see the sequence of events that unfold in front of you. That's the clearest answer to your istikhara. But again, and I'm not joking on that, just people should not overcomplicate it. After that, tawakkal ala Allah.
So would you say that like person, they see a rishta and they do istikhara, and they don't see a dream, they don't particularly feel anything, but things seem to be facilitated, like the next step seems to be easy and there's no problem. Whereas, that might be a positive thing. Whereas on the contrary, you want to take it a step forward and then there's like, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. And there's always obstacles in your way. Maybe a family member doesn't agree with it and it's just difficult, right, to move a step forward. Maybe that would be an indication to just drop it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it, because part of your dua of istikhara, oh Allah, if you know this to be good for me, فيسره لي فيسره لي وقدره لي, make it easy for me and decree it for me. And if it's bad for me, فاصرف عني واصرفني عنه واقدر لي الخير حيث كان ثم ردني به. If it's bad for me, turn it away from me and turn me away from it, and decree for me good, whatever it is, and then make me happy with that. So the dua itself is telling us that the outcome, you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just make it easy for me, it's good, and if not, then just turn me away from it. Wallahu a'lam.
Khutbahs, some people are fortunate enough to kind of have really good khatibs come to the mosque, and I can understand the temptation to record them. So this anonymous attendee is asking, can you hold your phone to record a video of the Imam during the Arabic khutbah on Jum'ah? Must be one of yours. Yeah.
No, I do it in Arabic, so it can't be mine. It can't be mine. I don't do Arabic khutbahs. If you can do that, but that's just by ensuring you set it up before the khutbah starts. After the khutbah starts, as a rule, so whatever haram for you to do during prayer is haram for you to do during the khutbah. So now you're just sat there with your phone. You wouldn't do that during your prayer because you're moving around. You should try and remain still and motionless and listen to the khutbah. So set it up beforehand, and then just let it roll until you're finished. Allahu
Akbar. There's a really quite deep question from Musarrat Zia. Assalamu alaikum. Please, can you advise on how to maintain a high level of piety and practice, and how to deal with the peaks and troughs in Iman?
Tfaddal. You're the man who maintains a high level.
No, I'm like spent 40 years in the trough. Still there. Yeah.
Now you're at the peak.
Occasionally people on the peaks throw things down and to us in the trough, but Bismillah.
No, I'm serious, man. You're the one who's answering that, not me.
I don't know really the answer, but what I do know is that when I'm around people who are better than me, then I feel better, right? People who with a connection to the Prophet ﷺ, and that is the key, that no one has a connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unless they have a connection with the Prophet ﷺ. It's not possible. So people who have a connection with the Prophet ﷺ, and by extension they have connections with the pious people, that has an effect on you, just as spending time with people who are sinful and people with a bad character, bad hal, has an effect on you. The contrary is true, and so spend as much time as you can with those people, but also understand that peaks and troughs are normal. Even companions, there's that famous hadith where companions began to feel that they were hypocrites, because when they were with the Prophet ﷺ, they felt like they were something and they felt a real high. Then when they were with their families, they began to just come down by some degrees, and then when they reflected on that, they began to doubt themselves. And then one companion, two companions, three companions began to convince themselves that they were maybe hypocrites. Prophet ﷺ said, it's the way it is. Unless you're an angel, that's the way it is for humans. Shaykh?
And I'll just add to that as well. So yeah, Dr. Javed mentioned about surrounding yourself with people of goodness. If you look in your day-to-day life, like how many people do you come into? How many people's presence you come into where you can genuinely say that they lift you, that you feel so much stronger in your iman. But in addition to that, yes, the people, but also the people by extension means the majalis, the gatherings. You should be regularly trying to ensure that you come to gatherings of zikr, of knowledge, of Quran, the masjid, the highest of all places. So moving around people and places where goodness is taking place. And just to add, and that's what's going to help you when you're on a low. When you're on a low, that's most important when you're on a low. When you're feeling down on your iman, just force yourself to go, do a bit of jihad against your nafs, force yourself to go and sit in the presence of that shaykh, that in that class, in that dhikr, in that mawlid, so it reinforces your iman. And just one additional point, because I've seen a trend, or we've seen this people falling away, that somebody's coming to the gatherings and sat in the presence of shaykh for like 5 years or more, but then after a while they begin to fade away. And sometimes it's just even hearing people making a comment that that's not really, it's just the same, it's monotonous, there's what I was doing 10 years ago and so on. And then they begin to move away and then lose themselves back into the dunya, into the worst of it. So when shaitan sees you, when the devil sees you in that protective zone, you're in that zone where you're protected, right? Going to the majlis, class of knowledge, making sure you go to the masjid daily, making sure around the people of goodness, and online, even online, that's the zone where you're protected. And he wants to take you out of it. So don't believe him. Don't believe a shaitan al-rajim when he tells you that you're not getting much out of it. Don't believe him. He's trying to take you out of that so that you lose yourself. Allahu Akbar. Around people of goodness and places of goodness. Jav, Doctor, before you go on, I'm just looking at Facebook and Aftakhar, mashallah, our dear blessed brother from Warrington, he's just thrown a few points there. A couple of important questions, but like he's asked what's the rules on buying and selling shares in companies, and a valid point that I think the charities need to play a more active role in getting the message across on the rules on zakah, as they seem to reinforce the misconception. Absolutely, absolutely. Although it's not always the case, like particularly those charity organizations that are led by ulama, there is a real push to ensure that people are educated about these. But after all of that, most important for you, Dr. Javed, predictions for tomorrow. We're gonna whoop Chelsea, aren't we, tomorrow?
You know, I hope they will whoop Chelsea, but if I'm entirely honest, even in the last game against who was it, Sheffield, if you notice, literally since they came back after lockdown and from the beginning of this season, their passing is off. I mean, people talking about, oh, it's going forward, they're not ruthless, or it's a defense, and there are issues there, but it's the passing's off. If you see how they're passing, even when they do complete a pass, often the guy receiving it has to stretch, right, or has to track back to get the ball. All of that stuff messes up, you know, the play. So, at the moment, Chelsea are on a high because they've got a new manager who's not Lampard. Right? So,
well, you know what, Jav? With all of that, come on, man. It's all about the heart, man. In Klopp we trust, right?
yeah. Well,
so I'm going for a 3-0, mate. I'm going for a 3-0. I mean, Hellsby's playing 2-1.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Liverpool should win, but Liverpool have gone out of their way this season.
Come on, lad. Come on now. A should win's not. We will win. In Klopp we trust, right? I mean, Hellsby. In Klopp we trust.
Yeah. Okay. You know, I'm hoping for it, but I just can't deal with the trauma. Right? I've got PTSD watching Liverpool this season. If anyone's out there who can help, who can give me some counseling, yeah, I need to go to these energy healers that you guys are have abundantly in is it energy healing? What have you got in Liverpool?
I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Anyhow, yeah, I need some.
Let's do some quick questions. This is from Moeen. Salam Shaykh, according to the Quran, is the world flat or round? I'm hearing mixed opinions from friends and family.
I'm still trying to figure out if my head's flat or round. I don't, Ajib. Honestly, I find this a strange one. I don't know why it's such a big issue. It's not a Quran and Sunnah issue. There are ayat in the Quran that indicates it being round. There are ayat that indicates it being flat. The way that's generally reconciled is that from our perspective, as we stand there, as far as the eye can see, it's flat. And we stretch out the earth for you. But overall, it's generally accepted, except for one or two, a minority of human beings, but it's generally accepted that it's spherical. And there's not a problem with holding that view. And that type of view was said historically, like the great Mufassir of Ahl Sunnah, Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi, spoke about the earth being round. And when you read his tafsir, he commonly states that as the accepted view. Allahu
Akbar. Triple talaq, is it ever permitted?
Triple T's. The triple T, bam, bam, bam. Hanafis, no. Except, again, there's a split in madhabs. The Shafis allow it. Hanafis, no, unless they never consummated the marriage. I think that's what, I think it's, I'm trying to remember. I think it's unless they never consummated the marriage. I think, I think it's if they never consummated the marriage, then it's allowed. Then there's no hurmah, then there's no prohibition. Other than that, for the Hanafis, no, it's haram to do that. And it's such a wide misconception. What people need to understand is that if the marriage is breaking down and you give 3 divorces in one, then you don't have a way of getting back easy. She's got to go get married to somebody, set up all halal stuff, where she's going to have to sleep with somebody before. And even the setup itself is forbidden to be done. Whereas if a man just divorces once and then lets the iddah finish, then if they want to get back together again, it says you just go back to your mom, start paying another £100 and you're back together again. It's as simple as that.
And that happens, surprisingly.
What?
Yeah. Like people, they issue 3 talaqs in one go and then they want to get back. You know what I mean? It's not like it doesn't happen, it happens. That regret.
More often than not, it does happen.
Yeah.
Because for most men, for most men now, they just assume that a divorce only counts if it's done 3 times.
So can I just clarify this? When we say that not in the Hanafi madhab, right? What you mean by that, if I understand you correctly, is it's haram to do that, but it counts, right?
Yeah. So for the Hanafis, if a man says, I give you 3 talaq, it's haram, but it counts as 3. Sayyidina Imam Shafi says that's allowed and it counts as 3. Everybody says it counts as 3 except for those outside of Ahl Sunnah. All say it counts as 3.
Okay, so our Sayyid is asking, I think there's another question similar to this somewhere else as well. What is the hukum of a Sayyid girl marrying a non-Sayyid boy?
Allahumma salli alayhi.
And while you're at it, can you just explain kafa'a as well?
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. First of all, Sayyid being from Ahl al-Bayt and confirmed, because there's a lot of fake cases. If it's confirmed that that person's from Ahl al-Bayt, and they have, then it's allowed if the father agrees to it. Because it's the haqq, it's the right of the father there. If the father's happy with that, then it's allowed. If the father is not happy, then it becomes an issue. Then it does become an issue. And then, according to the later Hanafis, they said because he's not deemed as compatible in Sharia, then the marriage is not valid up until the father agrees to it or the guardian agrees to it. No.
Well, you know what one of my teachers said to me? He says, because a sheikh if you become a sheikh is like a kafar for anyone.
That's right, yeah. That's right.
He had a little twinkle in his eye. I don't know what he's up to. He had a little twinkle in his eye.
What are you saying? Because 30 years later now you're a sheikh. So what are you saying now?
No. I'm not even a muqallid properly yet. Yeah, I'm still working on that.
What have you been doing for 30 years and just messing around in courses and rihlas and everything?
Yeah, man, getting certificates. Although I didn't get a few of my last ones from Greensville. I have to chase that up with admin, the notorious admin.
No,
So,
you send an email into info@greensvilletrust.org and you'll get something back in about 10 years. That's the ultimate black hole.
I'll be gone and it will be given to my heirs in as a wasiya or something. How do you stop demonic dreams? Often described by people as sleep paralysis, which is very distressing as it can make you fear going to sleep. It's terrible for the people it happens to. I've met a few people and it's subhanAllah, may Allah help them out of this situation. So how do you stop that?
1 second, just 1 second. I'm getting harassed by the... Yeah, again, I mean, it's not something that I really like to say much about. There are certain du'as that genuinely do help with these. So if that person has genuine problems, then if you just reach out and show it to people, there are proper du'as that assist a person within that. But if it's demonic that person's actually being affected by shayateen, then it needs more treatment. It needs treatment. Ayatul Kursi and the Mu'awwidhats by themselves is not always sufficient at that point. It needs specific treatment. Allahu.
There's a question I'm dying to ask. At 8:53, Anonymous says, Salam Shaykh, may Allah bless you and keep you.
Is this the one about smoking weed?
Oh, don't ruin it. You're ruining it for everyone.
What's the call?
Yeah, that's the one. He goes, Salam Shaykh, because now I feel I want to buy one of these olive mount boxes, right? I'm going to put my order in tonight. Because may Allah bless you and keep us with you always. I bought the olive mount box set recently with Oud, and I wanted to ask, what is the secret and benefits to burning weed and frankincense?
You know what,
dude, there is no secret. Yeah.
No, I knew all along that Khalid Muhammad and Shaykh Haroon, they were slipping stuff into those boxes.
That's why they're getting repeat orders.
No, trying to.
Can I have an olive box and a packet of biscuits? Okay, then he goes. Then quickly at 8:54, they say, "Sorry, Sheikh, I meant oud and frankincense." That in English we call a Freudian slip. I think.
No, yeah, it was because the guy's talking about weed, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, what's the deal with oud and frankincense?
I don't know too much about frankincense. I haven't really read too much about it. But oud generally, and I thought it's something that's blessed to be used. Beautiful fragrance and smells attract the best of all souls and spirits, human as well as angelic. Allahu Akbar.
Okay, and also, can you name a child Abdul Nabi or Abdul Rasul?
Yes, you can. Abdul Nabi, Ghulam Rasul. Yes, you can. Servant to the messenger. Saying that we're all slaves of Allah, that's besides the point here. Yes, we're all slaves of Allah. But the greatest ni'mah is like the likes of Anas ibn Malik, who's Khadim al-Rasul, servant to the messenger. So yes, you can. It doesn't negate in any way whatsoever being a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Probably one of the greatest students of Arabic madrasa, the Zafar, asks, Big Fran.
No, pause there. In what world has he been the greatest student of Arabic madrasa ever? I'm just Zafar. I don't know what he's on. Have you paid him something? Are or have you given him a box full of weed as well?
No,
So,
I've got a lot of love, apart from his bad habits of supporting the scum in Manchester. Other than that, I love
no,
Amjad,
likewise.
mashallah.
Yeah, likewise. I got a lot of Ramjad as well. But to say that
I didn't say he was the best student. I said he was the greatest student.
same thing, isn't it?
No.
Okay.
Um,
So just to be clear on that, Amjad, if you're listening, both me and Javed are agreeing that we both love you,
sorry.
but we can't say that you're the greatest student
So
ever.
we need some translation here. It goes big scran at Sheikh Amir's, no apostrophe after the R. Yeah, so scran, I'm assuming that means some kind of food of dubious quality, no?
A big scran is just like a large meal.
Yeah, at 9:15, right? It doesn't say it was AM or PM. Come down, and he specified only your name, right? So, okay. Maybe I don't like him as much. Yeah.
See you later. Assalamu alaikum. I'm going for the scrum, mate.
9:15. So, okay. We've done that. What else have we got? When praying, if you have a slight indication that you've left out a rak'ah, but perform sajda sahu. Sajda sahu. Yeah, this is definitely one of Husnain's mates. Yeah.
For all you know, it's Husnain.
Yeah. Because of the slight feeling, will prayer be accepted or need repeating?
Ya Latif. Hassan dhannaka billah. Have a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Slight indication that you've left out a rak'ah, but there's nothing real there. Just ignore it. It's only if you've got some real concern. People should not do such a sahu just on the basis of slight indications. If you're unsure that I do 3 or 4 rak'ahs, then you do it. But slight feeling, like you get slight feelings all the time. So it has to be something a bit more than that. So if you're not sure that you do 3 or 4 and then you do sajda sahu, there's details on that because it still means that you need to do an extra rak'ah because you might not have done the 4th. And then do the sajda. Will the prayer be accepted? I don't want to go too much about this, but people need to stop asking the question that way. Will the prayer be accepted? Is the prayer valid? Because acceptance is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any sheikh, any alim, any mufti comes and tells you your prayer is accepted, he's lying to you. Only Allah can tell you if your prayer is accepted or not. Is the prayer valid or does it need repeating? That's a different thing. So if you're unsure and you thought you might have done 3, you might have missed 1 out, then stand up and do an extra rak'ah and then do sajda sahu at the end. And inshallah ta'ala, it's valid, and we pray and hope that all of our acts are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
The connection to that same topic is, what is a proper method to do sajda sahu according to the Hanafi madhab? When can it be done and what does it cover? Could you just kind of outline that process? When do you do it and how do you do it?
There's different ways it can be done. The preferable way, sit down, your final sitting, read at-tahiyatu lillah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Then 1 salam to your right, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Then do 2 sajdas, and there you sajda sahu. And then sit back up again, and then do the final sitting again. That's the preferable way of doing it.
So what is the status of the hadith mentioned by Imam Jazuli in the Friday section of Dala'il al-Khairat?
I don't have it to hand. I'll have to look at it. I'll make a note of it, inshallah ta'ala, and come back next time. Okay,
this is what evidences can we show to someone who says the name for angel Azrael has no basis, rather it is only Malak al-Maut?
From what I recall, that's something that also I want to check. And it was asked last time, so I need to make sure I check it this time. Malak al-Maut is a title, it's not a name. Malak al-Maut comes in the Quran. That simply means the angel of death. From what I recall, Azrael is a name that comes from Israeliyat. But there are some ahadith that touch upon it. But inshallah, I'll give some references for that. So if the question asks again next time, then I'll try and make sure.
The other question I wanted answering myself, actually, is it permissible to take the mic off the mic stand in prayer?
I've been doing that.
Yeah, I know, and I've seen Shaykh Haroon do it as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, for someone like me, usually that's indication enough. But it doesn't make sense.
Why doesn't it make sense?
In terms of, I mean, like in my mind, I would be thinking, well, is it not on, your hand position? Okay, there's no sahih hadith about hand position, but you're holding something to help. I don't know. Why not hold the Quran? Why not? And is there any extra unnecessary movements? I mean, is it really needed to come off the stand? I mean, are people having such great problems in nowadays?
They're all fair points to raise. You could possibly argue that's unnecessary in certain cases. If it's a large congregation where people far back can't hear it clearly, then you can say that. But even then, it doesn't invalidate the prayer. The point with Abu Hanif that it invalidates the prayer is that you no longer look like you're praying. Just a brief moment where you're taking it off. That doesn't. That wouldn't fall under Amal Kathir, under excessive movements. It will fall under Amal Qalil. Minimum movements, which is makruh if there's no reason to do it. But if there's a reason, then it's no longer makruh. So is it valid? Yes, it's valid. Is it permissible to do it? Yes, it is. Is it makruh? That's the question. Where there's no reason to do it, then yes. Otherwise, it's fine to do.
Someone's asking, "What's a rishta, bro? We're not all brown, yo." That rhymes. That actually rhymes.
That's Husnain. That's Brown Husnain.
Yeah, you could even sing that to some qasida tunes, I'm sure.
Do you want to answer that? Because that sounds like a serious point.
You can't properly translate rishta. That's why I say rishta. It's what would you say? A sutta, and that does not go anywhere close to rishta. Rishta is the whole process. It's like strikes a fear of God into young men.
You know what? Yeah. How long ago did you get married and you can still remember all that fear?
No. Oh, I dreaded those weekends where you had to go on a trip and to go to someone's house, and it's so awkward. Yeah.
Okay, so you don't want to tell this non-brown folk person what a rishta is?
Yeah, it's a sutta. It's a sutta, isn't it? It's a sutta, but it just doesn't reflect the trauma that rishta process. Okay, are you the Shaykh of Islam of the UK?
If you'll crown me with that title, then I'm going to start proclaiming myself as such.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Mufti Aftakhar, from using rishta is a derivative of rishte, meaning relatives. Interesting. Most interesting. You are an ocean of knowledge, Mr. Aftakhar.
Anyway, it's not Arabic, so we don't really care. So, what is the Hanafi view on praying on Mars?
No idea. Let's go.
I'm assuming they mean the planet and not the chocolate
bar. Yeah. Just don't munch any Mars bars while you're praying. I've no idea. You're still gonna have to pray. If you do actually get into space, you will still have to pray, and then you have all of those issues like which way is your qibla and how do you stop floating around in space, and how are you even going to purify yourself? There's many an issue there.
Okay, Anonymous is saying that Shaykh Burhan told them to direct this question to you. Is life insurance permissible?
I wonder what Shaykh Burhan is. Is it Shaykh Burhan Khan, the great dentist of Manchester, or is it Shaykh Muhammad Burhan Khandia from Derby, the actual scholar?
Yeah.
Not the wannabe in Manchester. Life insurance, the general view of the ulama is that the scholars is that life insurance is forbidden. So even though, like some will argue, the problem with insurance being that you're paying for an unknown service, when you say death is known, but the amount that you're paying in is the unknown there. So generally the ulama have always considered it to be haram. It's forbidden to go into a life insurance scheme.
Okay, so this is so early question 840. Salam Sheikh. This may sound like a joke question, but I'm generally trying to understand. I understand in Umrah, when one's in the state of Ihram, marital, not martial relations, that's like war. Yeah. So marital relations are not allowed. Actually, martial activities aren't allowed either. So yeah. Anyway, marital relations are not allowed. Once Ihram has finished, but the pilgrim is still in Mecca, are marital relations permitted, or is it considered bad adab for the pilgrim to do that?
Martial, this person really isn't on about martial relations as well. But this person engaged in war games with his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it's allowed. It's not considered bad adab. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he spoke about coming, when he did the farewell pilgrimage, he spoke about that after you shaved your head and you performed your tawaf. And he said, now everything is lawful, including women. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not. And then to say it's bad adab, I need to think about it logically. Bad adab to have martial relations in Mecca. What are the poor Meccans going to do? They have to go out every time that they want to be intimate with their wives. Poor people in Mecca, man. You're the poorest people ever living in Mecca. So no, there's no issue with that whatsoever.
We come back after a few years and where are all the Meccans gone?
And inshallah ta'ala, a bit of deep qiyas here. The reward for good deeds are multiplied, and martial relations are sadaqah. So, mashallah, bismillah.
Okay, I found that question I was looking for ages ago. So Anonymous is asking, saying, thank you for hosting the session. I'm struggling to be consistent with my salah. Every day I say I will start tomorrow, but then I don't, and say I will change tomorrow, but I don't. What advice can you give to be consistent in salah?
Yeah, I'll take one. I'm just going to give some advice, please. Further.
Make it as easy on yourself as possible, right? So when you're looking at the salah, right, you strip it down to fard, right? And don't burden yourself with ideas. I've got to do my 4 sunnah and then my 4 fard and do this, and make it as light on yourself as possible, right? Allah understands that you're struggling, right? That's not a problem. Make dua and start small steps. Like when you want to get fit physically, yeah, you don't go for the big machines and the big weights straight away. You just ease into it, right? You just do a light amount of exercise, then you come back, and as you keep coming back, right, thinking, okay, I'm only just doing a little bit, just increase it slightly. When you feel you have the himma to do that. So just try and work out what the bare minimum is, and stick to that as a first move.
That's beautiful, that point. Don't overload yourself, particularly at the beginning. Make things easy. The Prophet's nice advice, other Muslims, bashiru wa la tunaffiru, yassiru wa la tu'assiru. Like when you're dealing with people who are just at the beginning and they're genuinely struggling, give them good news. Just tell that person, well, and don't drive them away. Don't tell them that if you don't pray your sunnahs and you don't pray your this and that, that this is going to, like the punishment and the wrath of God's going to descend upon you. Don't overburden people, but give them the good news of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that person. Yassiru wa la tu'assiru. Make things easy. Don't make them difficult. So yeah, no, that's great advice there from Shaykh Dr. Saab.
Yeah, from Javid. Just
Dr. Saab, jiddan. Dr. Saab.
Ibrahim Ahmed, Sidi Ibrahim Ahmed has asked, is it considered better to wear clothes which show Muslim identity, like a topi and a jubba, when living in the West, or is this determined by custom?
You're talking to Dr. Javid's wearing a t-shirt there. Astaghfirullah, bro. What are you playing at?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Fadl, that's your one now. I'll give you that.
You can't give me everything. Come on.
You've only answered a couple. What are you crying for?
Well, there's no right or wrong when it comes to clothes in terms of style. Right? As long as it's not, the type of clothing that people who are considered like people of sin or people, then that's a different issue. So I know some people try to dress like drug dealers and things like that. There's a big question mark over that. But just generally wearing clothes, it covers your satar and it's modest in its appearance, right? It's not tight, then alhamdulillah. And there's an argument for both, right? I've heard some teachers talk about how it's important to not look so alien. Okay, now we might struggle to understand how other people perceive us, but if you want to see how other people perceive you, the best thing to do is go down Manchester or some areas, Stamford Hill, is it Stamford Hill? Golders Green in the sort of outskirts of London. Go there and you see the Hasidim, the Hasidic Jewish community who wear a uniform. And to be honest, the uniform is like baggy trousers and a long black coat and the tzitzits that they have hanging down and a big wide brim hat or a strimal that they wear. And like, if you're not part of that community, it can be intimidating. It can feel intimidating when everyone there is dressed like that. So sometimes we have to kind of step outside of our shoes and stand in other people's shoes and say, well, how do we come across?
Can I add to that? I agree with that, and particularly that view. I agree with that. But I think we need to balance it that generally when we're around people of other faiths or no faiths, then there's no harm in dressing different. Some still feel like you want to portray a message that this is what it means to be a Muslim, but it's not necessarily the most effective way to bring it up, especially when that's not something that's an essential part of your faith. So that's from one, but then when you move amongst Muslims, then perhaps then that becomes more.
Yeah. But I mean, we see some of the.
I just wanted to add on that as well. But often what we perceive to be what we term as a sunnah dress code is just cultural dress codes. Like so salwar and kameez with some is sunnah. It's a Muslim, it's a dress code that's worn in Muslim lands. I often even the thobe and the scarves they're just localized. Like that's a Khaliji dress one. That's a Najdi way of dressing the red scarf and so on. And when we actually look at the Prophet's dress code, it's perhaps more in line with like a turban and just a long kameez and an izar underneath, like perhaps like southern India, parts of Yemen. It's more in line with that. So even when we're saying sunnah itself as the Prophet's a lot of Muslim dress code is not sunnah, but it's not necessarily wrong. It's adapted. That also highlights the point about diversity within the Muslim world. So there's always been that diversity. There are certain key elements, and one of which you touched upon, which is loose clothes for men. Like, because men going around now wearing like really tight clothes, really tight jeans, and it's okay for men. But when women start doing that, there's a big issue. But when we look at the dress code across the Ummah up until recent times, it was loose clothes. The interesting thing as well that I always find fascinating, across the Muslim world, everybody all men wore a turban. You just wrap something around their head. Like that was almost like the Taj. That was almost like the crown of the Muslims. So in the Muslim culture, that needs to be around Muslims, yes, but we should also understand what did the Prophet wear and what did he not wear, and not be fooled by like Saudis or Khalijis into believing that their localized dress code is the Sunnah of the Prophet.
So, quick questions in relation to that. Do you own like a jubba with like Adidas stripes down the side? Yeah.
No, you know what? I need to
No,
find.
yes or no, yes or no. Don't dodge the question.
No, yeah, the answer is no, but I need to find one with a live bird on it, mate.
A live bird, okay.
And walk around. I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
And the second question is it possible to be a good Muslim without owning a Moroccan thobe with a hood? Is it possible to be a pious Muslim?
And with your sibha around your neck, yeah? Make sure it's all there.
Yeah. What do your teachers say about hanging your sibha on your wrist or on your neck?
Some of my shuyukh, they discouraged it.
Yeah. And how do you know that?
Because I was wearing it on my neck. Nice one, Jav.
Oh, here's a very good question. Anonymous.
Jav, I'm getting you back for that one, mate. Just calling.
No, honestly, this is a very important question. I want to listen to the answer to this because I suffer from the same issue. Any practical advice on how I can remove my desire for eating food constantly from an Islamic perspective? Any advice?
Hold on, just fast more. As simple as that. That desire is just by increasing the amount of fasting that you do. I'm getting a message from Thaqib as well. We love food. That's what we talk about in the Arabic class. We always talk about ruz and lahm. That's all we're talking about, lahm mandi. Fasting is the most effective because it affects him in so many different ways.
Can you pray for the health of a non-Muslim?
Yes, you can, with the niyyah of afiyah, al-afiyah wa sihhata lahu liyuslim. So that inshallah he has a longer life, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides him into faith.
Okay. So someone bought me a desert. I'm assuming they mean dessert, right? I saved it for my wife. She enjoyed it. I told her I bought it for her. The God. R is significant. I'm not sure what that means.
Great. Bought versus brought. Okay. The R is significant. Bought.
Oh, brought it. Okay, right. I get you.
I brought it.
We can use this.
This guy's a Manitodia.
This is a Shaykh Haroon. Yeah.
Did I lie? No, you didn't. And you know what, man? If I knew, we'd be patting you on the back all day long.
No. Is there any way we can save this as like general advice?
Am I slick? You are the slickest of all husbands, bro.
Is there any concept of, I'm not sure what this means, maybe you can help. Is there any concept of spiritual bypass in Islam? If so, how do we overcome this?
I've just quickly had a look online. I've just gone and checked the great Sheikh Wikipedia.
Yeah.
And even after looking at it, I'm still not sure what it is. It's something to do, a tendency to use spiritual ideas and practices to sidestep or avoid facing unresolved emotional issues, psychological wounds, and unfinished developmental tasks.
If maybe the questioner can send some information about that. Someone asked me a question, and I know the truth would hurt or stress them. Can I lie?
That needs details. Lying is one of the worst things a Muslim can do. So it has to be something really significant. Just upsetting somebody is not. That's no. Hey, what?
If you feel your relationship with your father or family is taking a turn for the worst, which would result in you losing your share of inheritance. Therefore, would it be permissible for you to request your share of inheritance at present prior to the passing of both parents?
You can ask, he doesn't need to give it, but he has no right whatsoever to nobody can take you out of inheritance. If a father says, because what that person that I've written him out of the world, that's batil, that's void, and it's one of the worst crimes that a Muslim can ever do. When Allah speaks about inheritance shares, 2 verses after, وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ وَيَتَعَدَّ حُدُودَهُ يُدْخِلْهُ نَارًا خَالِدًا فِيهَا. Whoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger and violates the boundaries, is unfair, and Allah will enter him into hellfire for him to remain therein forever. So nobody can ever remove you from your share. If now you say, can I have my share now? Like, there is no share now, he's alive, so there's no concept of getting an inheritance share whilst the person's still alive.
I've been having thoughts about wishing for death and suicidal thoughts. Yeah, this is surprisingly common, actually. I didn't realize how much it was affecting people. But yeah, I've been having thoughts about wishing for death and suicidal thoughts. Reason behind these thoughts are mainly sort of situations outside of my control, like health issues with my families. How would you advise me to deal with these thoughts, inshallah?
Oh, Allah. I can't, with things like that, Q&A is not the right place for this, especially when that person's got suicidal thoughts. Like, you can answer something and push him over the edge.
Yeah.
So with that, I'd advise that person, like, get in contact, send an email into Rawdah, for example. And if it's something that we can deal with at a religious level, then fine. If not, then if it needs to be try and passed on to a Muslim counsellor, then so be it.
There's like some people sort of professionally trained to deal with these kind of things.
Sure.
Some people tend to want to deal with it just by giving medication, and sometimes there's a role for that. But I know that Sheikh Asim, is he Wolverhampton based, Sheikh Asim Yusuf, the Munshid?
I know he's Midlands based, that's all.
Yeah. People like him are kind of rare because he's very skillful as a professional psychiatrist, but he has a good understanding of Islam and the rules and things, and he's the type of person that would spend the time to talk you through it. And he does have a private service that you can contact and arrange sessions from, sessions with him. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember the name. Yeah, I can't remember the name. I'll try and find the name. But Sheikh Asim Yusuf definitely is someone to seek help. I don't understand this question. Can I pray in my mother-in-law's house? Does that make me a? I don't even know what word it is.
Aftakhar, can you send us a translation of that?
Yeah, 858.
And first, there's no issue whatsoever in praying in your mother-in-law's house or your father-in-law's. Why is it called a mother-in-law's house? It's your father-in-law's house, right? Does that make me a Karajavai? Does that? Yeah, we'll find out from.
I think that term might be kar. It's just pronunciation. I don't know.
Whatever. There's absolutely no problem in praying in your in-law's house. Allahu Akbar.
Does a mayyit feel pain during post-mortems or when organ are being transplanted?
I asked that question of Shaykh Haroon and he said, "Yeah, hadith are not clear on that. It doesn't indicate. There are some some legal issues that indicate, like they said, you should not use scalding hot water when washing because it affects the body of the deceased. So there are certain things that would indicate something of that. The Prophet said, breaking the bones of a dead person like breaking the bones of a living person. But at the same time, when I asked Shaykh Haroon, he said it's not absolutely clear.
Does the mayyit physically sit up for the questioning in the grave, or does this happen in a different realm, i.e. barzakh?
It happens in this is the whole question of coffins.
Yeah.
Now that Muslims have moved away from the tradition of burying in shrouds and putting them in, so now there's a big issue. Like, do we open the coffin, close the coffin? It's a dead question, even though like Mufti Husnain seems to think it's such a massive issue, because the sitting up is happening in the barzakh. It's not happening inside the coffin; it's happening inside the barzakh.
And so like the barzakh is a metaphysical realm, not a physical realm. So
It's a
physical thing like the
way I like to. It's a parallel realm that exists there. Parallel metaphysical realm. It's not. It's an intangible in this world. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a question about are your kids still there or has it gone?
They're in and out.
Okay.
Close that door, YouTube. Yeah, go on, carry on. Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, so there was a question earlier on about a person who, and I'll ask it later when kids aren't there. So I asked last session about Najd being in Central Arabia, which it is, rather than Iraq, which it isn't. I'm adding those bits, by the way. Do you have any names of great scholars of the past that mentioned it's in Central Arabia?
I'll get some references. I'll find some references for you.
But you have to ask yourself again. We mentioned this last time. The mawaqit. There's a miqat for the people coming from Najd, and there's a separate miqat from the people coming from Iraq.
Sure.
Yeah. You know, it's
with all due respect and deference, I don't think it's interesting what Java Khan's got to say. He's asking for great traditional scholars. And
yeah.
You're not there.
It's true.
Yeah, just yeah.
Okay, Salam Sheikh. There was a recent death in India, and this sister committed suicide after a period of time of really bad mental abuse. Suicide is haram, but is there any leeway in this from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one who was being oppressed?
He forgives everything other than shirk. So leeway in terms of, well, can Allah forgive him? Absolutely. Can Allah forgive that person? Absolutely. Absolutely. Allah can forgive. And the punishment that speaks about perpetual punishment of the person who commits suicide and is as long as that person remains in hellfire. But Allah can forgive whatever He wants after shirk. Wallahu a'lam.
Saraj is saying Harjamai is basically where a husband who, instead of getting his own place or instead of having his wife moving in with him, he has instead moved in with his wife at her parents' place.
Even though like in terms of muru'ah, in terms of being a man and so on, it does cause him difficulties and problems. But can he pray there? Absolutely, you can pray pretty much anywhere.
I don't know what's wrong with that, man. I'd move in, but no one's even asked me. Yeah. Does having the COVID test break the fast?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Nothing is going down your throat.
Yeah. Okay. How can one make the Quran his companion?
Setting a time every day that you recite it. Recite it every day at a set time.
Okay. And what about understanding it? Would you say we should start? How would you best understand the Quran?
Sit with teachers of Quran, but start off with reciting, because unfortunately most people are still too far away from
that. Ibrahim Ahmed is saying that I love the name Ibrahim. You know, every time I see that, I just want to answer his questions. Ibrahim, I don't know him. The name Ibrahim is just beautiful. I heard the an imam saying that the 73 sects hadith is generally not accepted. Is this correct?
No, it's not. It's not. I've heard
it's not accepted or it's not correct?
It's not correct. It is accepted. It's either Hassan. I think it's a hadith Hassan. I'm not sure on that. But it's not da'if maradud. It's not weak and rejected. But then there's different, because some people just have a problem because sectarianism has become ripe within the ummah. But there's different interpretation of what the hadith means. But even with that, it actually kind of proves the point of the hadith. Like sectarianism becoming rife in the ummah is exactly what the hadith is talking about. So then to say to avoid that, Wallahu a'lam. No, the hadith does exist.
you get a lot of hadith and they mention 70 this or 72 this or 73 that. So like, are we literally, because I have found in my youth, we used to count the number of sects to see how close we were, as well as telling people that Neil Armstrong heard the Azan on the moon to convert them. That was always that was our secret weapon. Anyway, so are we taking these literally? What, like in Arabic, what does 70, when they say 73 or 70 whatever, what are they saying in Arabic? Are they meaning it literally, or?
Allahu, and this does seem literal, because it's a 770s and 700 and so on. That's kathra. That's a lot. 770, 700. But 71, because the hadith speaks about 71, 72, 73. Like the Jews are the Jews are the small, and then the Christians were this, and then the Muslims are that. That seems to indicate it's a particular specific number. And on top of that, you find in many of the books of the Imams that they were, what you're talking about, they did that as well. They actually started listing out this sect and that sect and so on. So that's not just a tradition of Jabir, that's a tradition of the ulama.
Okay. Ali's asking if you're praying 4 rakahs in Jama'at and the second rakah you begin praying durood after Tayyat by mistake, do you need to repeat the prayer?
No, if you're praying in Jama'at and you're the muqtadi, you're behind the Imam, then nothing's required, not even sajda sahw. If you're the Imam, then you do sajda sahw.
And how much of durood
do
you get to before you?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Up to that point and beyond, then yes.
Yeah. What's the ruling on family planning? Like the wife doesn't want more kids, but the husband is wants to increase his innings.
If the husband wants it, it's his right to have children. Family planning is where both agree to it. Then it's acceptable, provided it's not out of fear of rizq, that I can't afford it, I can't afford to have children. But if either one of them wants to have children, it's the right. It's the right of the other to ensure that they. Yeah.
Is everything labeled suitable for vegetarians, permissible to eat?
No. Somebody sent me something like that today, suitable for vegetarian, but it had alcohol in it.
Yeah.
So no.
If a person is trying to find the truth, i.e. one God, but is upon other than Islam, so maybe they could be Christian, as they see that as a truth, where do such people stand if they die upon that search for the truth?
If they heard of Islam and rejected it, even though they were searching, then they're unbelievers. If they heard about Islam and rejected it, but they're still searching, but they've rejected Islam, or they know about Islam and they've not accepted it, then they're accountable for that.
So I mean, there's a video of Shaykh Hamza that was going around. I think we mentioned it last time, where he mentions Imam Ghazali in his book. Where people getting, was it a distorted da'wah or picture of Islam, that they won't be held accountable or responsible for that. Although in another video he mentions the same thing, and he does say more clearly that this is not orthodox. Yeah, this is kind of a heterodox opinion.
Yeah. Some of the Ash'ari, even Al-Ghazali statement that is not in context. And it's only statement that's interesting found amongst du'at, like preachers and teachers in the West.
Yeah.
It's the Ash'ari, they do hold a view that those who've never received a message will not be questioned, but not the view that those who receive a distorted message. That's not the view of the Ash'ari. Allahu Akbar.
Okay. Hassan Khalid is asking, in a case where there's both Hanafis and Shafis praying together, what rules should be followed regarding who is most eligible to lead? Afwan.
It's a Hanafi all day long. Hanafi
Well,
all.
is it about madhabs even?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No. Afqah. The one who knows the rules of prayer best. That's the one who should.
Okay, on that point, rules of prayer. So when we say, we normally hear the person who knows the most Quran, which to some people means the person who sounds more like the Saudi shiuch, right? To some people means whoever sings it best, right? Some people means like the amount of Quran you've memorized. So what is that referring to, and why are you saying now, Shaykh al-Islam of the UK, why are you saying it's people who know the rules of prayer?
I heard you saying singing, so I'm singing. So Abu Hanifa and Shafi'i, I think, and Shafi'i and Malik, I think they're the three who said it's most learned in prayer. They held it on the view that the ahadith, which say the one who knows the Quran the best, was speaking in a generation of the companions where they all knew how to pray. There was nobody ignorant of prayer amongst them. There are other narrations, says the elders amongst them. There's other where the Prophet's nice and speaking to each group individually. But the general was that every single companion knew how to pray. Hence, the Prophet's nice and did not need to mention that. But then the fuqaha needed to mention it because shortly after came a generation where many did not know how to pray. So there's no contradiction there. That was a generation where they all knew how to pray. But then just to add, when they say the best in reciting Quran, they said it's not about the amount. It doesn't mean half. It doesn't mean most beautiful voice. It means the one who can recite the most correctly. Allahu Akbar. I think we're going to have to cut short because in 15 minutes we have a dars on Quran.
طيب. Jazakumullah khair, Shaykh, for your time.
Allah yazeekum kull khair. Jazakumullah khair.
If you give me some qasidas, I'll try and look up the words.
Thaqib joining.
Do you know any funky new tunes for Qasaid? I've been working on some innovative tunes.
That's not. There's a Christmas Carol version of Mawlaya Salli wa Sallam.
Oh, I forget that. There's what's it? طلع البدر علينا من ثنية الوداع وجبت.
You're a hidden gem, you got a voice there, mashallah.
Yeah, I don't remember the words though. I have to keep
yeah, well,
looking.
Just hum along and we'll hum along to you.
Yeah.
The words.
So anyway, we'll leave that for another time, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Du'as, Shaykh, please.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, rabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وإلى حضرة النبي الفاتحة والله فاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم مالك أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب آمين السلام عليكم.
السلام.